Good morning, friends. I welcome all the participants, the students, the faculty, the employees, and others. And I thank the KSCST management for providing me an opportunity to discuss on the subject the good governance in connection with the birthday of our former beloved Prime Minister Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee's birthday, which falls during the month of December. It's on 25th December. So it's in that connection that many state governments and the central government are observing the good governance day. And in some states, it is a good governance week. So I'll be talking to you on the subject good governance under the following headings, namely the meaning, the context, the key attributes of the good governance, and the provisions in the constitution pertaining to the governance of the government, the expectations of good governance, and the efforts of the government in connection with the good governance, and also regarding the obstacles or the challenges to the good governance. And this has become of late the most talked subject. And this good governance, it has got wide applicability and it has got a wide ambit. So coming to its definition, governance, it is the package of all activities and processes through which the issues of common concern are decided upon, are regulated, the public resources are managed, and the realization of human rights is guaranteed. So when I say institution, there are different types of institution. So it can be a school, it can be a college, it can be even a hospital, a trust, a temple, a private organization, a big private organization, a corporate concern. It can be a government department, a public sector undertaking, an autonomous body, or the government itself, which controls several departments. So coming to the context, there is what is called the corporate governance, international governance, national governance, and local governance. So now we are speaking in the context of a government, the national governments or the state governance. See, before that, I will give you two simple examples before going to the administration of a government, state or central. See, coming to a small organization itself, there are several activities and processes. There are HR activities, administrative activities, the financial activities, the public relation activities, production activities, the marketing activities, and so on. So when you say good governance, it generally means good management. And management itself is not a single activity, it represents several activities. It means planning, it means organizing, controlling, coordinating, and so on. So when we say good governance, it means good planning, good organizing, good controlling, good coordination, and proper utilization of money, extending the benefits to the common people, and so on. You come to the HR management as an example in an organization. So HR management consists in recruiting the people, promoting the right people, providing their services in right time to the organization, Similarly, educating them, training them, providing them a career growth, and taking care of their incentives, taking care of the welfare, and so on. So, similarly, if you talk of purchase management in an organization, any organization, it means the right goods and the services have to be procured in right time, at a right cost, and make it available to the right person. So the principles of efficiency, economy, transparency all have to be strictly adopted. You have to also strictly adhere to the approved rules and regulations of the organization. There has to be a coordination between the men, material, and resources. So now let us come to the government scenario. It can be a state government or a central government. See, the importance of governance has clearly been prescribed in our Indian constitution, which is built on the premise of sovereign, socialist, the secular and the democratic republic, committing itself to the democracy, the rule of law and welfare of people. So every individual should be taken care with regard to his minimum needs. The goals of the welfare state should be met, and there should be a potential for the growth of an individual in the country, in the state. There should be equality, the fundamental rights have to be guaranteed. A recognition of merit should be there. There should be right to education, health, food, shelter, and so on. Similarly, right against exploitation or discrimination. The social and economic security should be provided, legal justice should be provided. There should be the upliftment of the underprivileged, and the government has to finally fulfill their promises of the manifesto. So rest of the points, whatever I said, they are all provided in the constitution. So the government has to act according to these provisions made in the constitution. So good governance, we say when they are able to meet all these requirements, we say the governance of the government or the ruling of the government is very good. Or in other words, it is good to the extent they are able to achieve the above results. It may be 70%, 80%, if not 100%. And the government should continue to work on the ideals of, according to the present government, the central government. It should work on the ideals of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and Sabka Vishwas, leading to the inclusive and sustainable development. So all this is okay, but how to achieve these objectives? How should governance become a good governance? How the rule of a government should become a good rule? See, the money is not available to government free of cost. It is not, the money of the government is not anybody's money, it is public money, it is taxpayers' money. And therefore, the government has to be highly economical in its activities. For example, if the requirement of the government of India is around 40 lakh crores, it cannot best mobilize only 30 lakh crores through taxation, through interest, through profits, by the public sector undertakings, by the commercial organizations, by the financial institutions, and so on. But the balance, how to make good the balance? The balance is through internal and external debts, by issuing special securities, by disinvestment of the government stake in public sector undertakings, financial institutions, etc. Therefore, the government has to be highly economical. Government has to be highly prudent. The authorities of the government, the ministers, the cabinet, they have to be economical, prudent. They have to scrap the unproductive projects, the unproductive schemes. They have to cut short the size of the manpower in the offices, the unwanted offices, they have to close. They have to prioritize the activities. They have to channelize the fund flow. They have to strictly monitor the activities of the organization, activities of the people working for the government. They have to follow, the authorities have to follow, and the sanctioning authorities and the, the ministers, the cabinet, they have to also keep in mind the economics of financial propriety. Periodical stock taking of progress should be carried out. There has to be efficiency audit. Then, what are the key factors of this good governance? See, the transparency, responsibility, accountability, participation, responsiveness, adherence to the legislative frameworks, policies, programs, budgetary allocations, etc., are the key factors of the good governance. So there has to be strict disciplinary action on the erring officials. There should be emphasis on the quality and honesty. You have to simplify the procedures, the tax structures, and the tax burden. Have to allow the new enterprises to grow. There has to be strict action against the criminal offenders, tax evaders. So governance, more or less, it is the process of decision making and the process of implementation. See, the officers who are occupying the key roles and also the ministers, etc., their integrity should be very high. And it is not enough if their integrity is high, they should also have the required knowledge in the domain in which they are operating. And they should be very good in decision making. And they should have the administrative and the controlling capabilities. They should have high ethics, moral ethics. See, to undertake, aid, guide, promote, implement, and execute. So that is governance. It is not merely prescribing the policies. You have to promote them, you have to implement them, and finally you have to execute. And those policies have to start yielding the results to the people, to the common man. So governance is therefore the manner in which the power is exercised in the management of a country's economic and social resources for development. So, as I said, the decision process is the most important activity in the government machinery. It has to be immediate, the decision should be qualitative, impartial, followed by, very strict policies. See, good governance, it has 8 major characteristics. It's participatory, conscious-oriented, accountable, transparent, responsive, effective and efficient, equitable and inclusive, and it should follow the rule of law. And finally, the corruption should be minimized. The views of the minorities are taken into account, and that the voices of the legitimate immediate organizations or the representatives should be heard in decision making. So this includes the men and women, vulnerable sections of the society, the backward classes, minorities, etc. So the participation also implies the freedom of association and expression. And coming to corruption, in fighting corruption, the good governance efforts rely on the principles such as accountability, transparency, participation to shape the anti-corruption measures. So it should also be responsive to the present and future needs of the society. The initiatives may include establishing the initiatives pertaining to the corruption or avoiding corruption may also include establishing the institutions such as the anti-corruption commissions, creating mechanisms of information, sharing and monitoring the government's public money, public funds, the use of public funds, and the implementation of the policies. So, the equity and inclusiveness, that is, good governance, assures an equitable society. So, people should have equal opportunities to improve or maintain their well being. The resources of the community should be used effectively for the maximum output. Officers have to follow the canons of financial propriety. So the sanctioning authorities in government at the senior levels, they should exercise same vigilance as a man of ordinary prudence would exercise. So while spending money from the public account, from the government account, these officers have to exercise same vigilance as a man of ordinary prudence would exercise while spending money from his own pocket. And friends, the expenditure should not prima facie more than the occasion demands. So the government is ultimately responsible to the people, to the stakeholders, because they are the voters, they are the owners, they are the owners of this public money. The information should be accessible to the public. There should be transparency and it should be understandable and monitored. And it also means free media and access to the information to them. See, there are good references about the good governance even in our so many books, in our epics. See, Bhagavad Gita is the best example for a good governance. It provides numerous clues for good governance, for good leadership, for dutifulness and self realization, which are interpreted in the modern context. Even in Kautilya's Arthashastra, somewhere during the 2nd, 3rd century BC, the welfare of the people was considered paramount, of utmost importance in the role of a king. Friends, Mahatma Gandhi emphasized on Swaraj, it is Suraj, which essentially means good governance. And even the present government says Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and Sabka Vishwas, leading to the inclusive and sustainable development. And of course, the government also has taken so many initiatives for good governance in India and in states also. Same thing has been adopted. But still, they may not be adequate. That's a different issue. But their efforts in this direction is highly appreciable. The Right to Information Act, the RTI Act 2005, it makes the government more open to the public scrutiny. It gives greater access to the citizens to the information. The right to information promotes the openness, transparency, and accountability. Accountability in administration. And coming to e-governance again, the National E-Governance Plan, it envisages to make all government services accessible to the common man in his locality through common service delivery outlets, and it ensures the efficiency, transparency, and reliability of services at affordable costs. So, friends, at the end, for about 5 to 10 minutes, I will also talk to you in Kannada on this subject. See, the programs launched under e-governance, the proactive governance and the timely implementation, that is called Pragati, the Digital India program, and the program to improve the speed and certainty in the delivery of the services of Ministry of Company Affairs, the Passport Seva Kendra, PSK, the online income tax filing, so etc. These are all similarly the minimum government, maximum governance policy. The central government has scrapped so many obsolete rules 1,500 to 2,000 absolute rules and laws with an aim to bring about transparency and improve the efficiency of the government, of the officers, of the departments. And they have also reformed the criminal justice, the criminal law and the procedural laws with focus on pre-institution meditation. So their pre-institution meditation, I'm providing the proper mediation, the channel of mediation for doing all this. And again, the ease of doing business. See, these steps were taken by the government to improve the business conditions, including the legislation meant to improve the country's business environment and the policy ecosystem, such as the Bankruptcy Code, the Goods and Services Tax Act, the Anti-Money Laundering Law, etc. Government has also launched the Make in India initiative, the Atmanirbhar program. Then they have decentralized the Planning Commission. They have abolished the Planning Commission, replacing it with the Niti Aayog, which ushers in an era of cooperative federalism. And the 14th Finance Commission, it increased the tax allotment or the pool to the states from 32% to 42% for the years 2015 to 2020. It provides more freedom to the states to initiate the schemes based on social factors, taking the local conditions into account. And many police reforms also the government has undertaken, modernizing the police forces and implementing the Model Police Act of 2015. And similarly, many policies in the defense also pertaining to the defense personnel they have reformed. And the reform of the first information report FIR lodging mechanism, including introducing the filing of EFIRs for the minor offences, and launching of a common nationwide emergency number to attend to the emergency security needs of the citizens. Similarly, the aspirational districts program. So here, the program was launched somewhere in January 2018 to transform the lives of people in the underdeveloped areas of the country in a time-bound manner. And I think they selected somewhere around 115, 120 most backward districts with focused interventions in the field of health and nutrition, education, agriculture, and the water management. And the Good Governance Index also has been introduced. This was launched on the occasion of Good Governance Day on 25th December 2019 by Government of India. So the objectives of Good Governance Index, they are to provide quantifiable data to compare the state governance in all the states and union territories. So it enables the states and the union territories to formulate and implement the suitable strategies for improving the governance and shift to the result-oriented approaches and administration. So friends, these are all some of the examples for the initiatives taken up by the government, and there are also many more initiatives. And now let us come to the challenges to the good governance. So the challenges or the obstacles of good governance. So one is the criminalization of the politics. According to the Association of the Democratic Reforms, 43% of the members of the parliaments of Lok Sabha 2019, they are facing criminal charges. So it's a 26% increase compared to 2014 parliament. So the criminalization of the political processes and the unholy nexus between the politicians, the civil servants, the business houses. So it has an influence of the public policy formulation and the governments. It should strictly be avoided. The political class, such as, I mean, the politicians, the members of the parliament or legislature or the local bodies, so they are losing respect because of this. So therefore it is necessary to amend the section 8 of the Representation of the People's Act 1951 to disqualify a person against whom the criminal charges that relate to, I mean, grave corruption charges and offences are pending. See, corruption is the major obstacle in improving the quality of governance. While human greed is obviously a driver of corruption, it is the structural incentives and poor enforcement system to punish the corrupt that has contributed to the rising curve of graft in India. Friends, there is also gender disparity. Swami Vivekananda once said, it is impossible to think about the welfare of the world unless the condition of women is improved. So it's impossible for a bird to fly only on one wing. They constitute about 50% of the population. So it is unfair that they are not adequately represented in government institutions and other allied sectors. Therefore, in order to ensure good governance, it is essential to ensure the empowerment of women. And even resorting to any illegal force and the growing incidence of violence against the woman, it is considered to be a law and order problem, a major law and order problem. And from the point of good governance, it becomes clear that peace and order is the first step to development. So there should be peace and order. And the delay in justice is the most important thing coming in the way of good governance. A citizen has the right to avail the timely justice. But there are several factors because of which a common man does not get timely justice. So centralization of the administrative system also is a problem. So the governments at lower levels, they can only function efficiently if they are empowered to do that, and if they get, especially the Panchayat Raj institutions, etc. So provided they get the budgets, timely budgets, timely allocations, and proper decentralization of powers. And sidelining of the socially and economically backward people is also one of the important reasons for non-good governance. See, the socially and economically backward sections of the society, they have always been sidelined in the process of development, although there are constitutional provisions for their upliftment. But in practice, they are lagging behind in so many areas like education, economic well-being, etc. So friends, let us conclude. The effective functioning of governments, it is the prime concern of every citizen of the country. So what is required is a transparent, accountable and intelligible governance system, absolutely free from bias and prejudices. See, when we say accountable, see, the responsibility and accountability of the officers should go together. The responsibility means the delegation of powers, so they can be given powers to sanction the projects, to sanction the schemes, to sanction the money for it. But at the same time, for any wrong procedure and for any illegal activity taking place, he should also be held responsible or accountable, and he should be severely punished. So this accountability should become an integral part of your governance. And there is a need to formulate our national strategy to accord the primacy to the Gandhian principle of Antyodaya. This Antyodaya is required to restore good governance in the country. So India should also focus on the probity in governance. Probity means ethics, moral side of the administration. So for an effective system of governance and for the socio-economic development, this probity is essential. Probity is a quality of having strong moral principles. So let us all work hard, keeping in mind the ideals of the central government, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and Sabka Vishwas, which will lead ultimately to inclusive and sustainable development. Friends, as the government grows in size or as an office grows, naturally the inefficiency creeps in because of so many factors, because of too many people, because of too many officers, because of lengthy procedures, because of the long processing time, too much of paper movement, duplication of records, long retrieval time, etc. And as a result of this, office tends to become the center of bureaucracy or delays, red tapeism, rules and regulations, corruption, etc. Therefore, we have to, the present requirement is automation, reduction of people and administrative costs, accountability and responsibility, paperless office, adoption of best practices, integration with the external environment, increased productivity and efficiency. So friends, let me talk to you for 5-10 minutes in Kannada also. ಗವರ್ನೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ. ಗುಡ್ ಗವರ್ನೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ. ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗಳಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಅನ್ವಯವಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಖಾಸಗಿ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಅಥವಾ ಸರ್ಕಾರವೇ ಇರಬಹುದು. ಪ್ರತಿ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ತನ್ನದೇ ಆದಂತಹ ಧ್ಯೇಯೋದ್ದೇಶಗಳಿರುತ್ತೆ, ತನ್ನದೇ ಆದಂತಹ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಕಾನೂನುಗಳಿರುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಯಮಗಳಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಉದ್ಯೋಗಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಂತಹ ಕಾನೂನುಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ನಿಯಮಗಳು, ವಸ್ತುಗಳ ಖರೀದಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಕಾನೂನುಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ನಿಯಮಗಳು, ತಯಾರಿಕೆಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು, ಮಾರುಕಟ್ಟೆಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು, ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕ ಸಂಪರ್ಕಕ್ಕೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು, ಹೀಗೆ 16 ನಿಯಮಗಳನ್ನು ಸರ್ಕಾರ ರಚಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಿಯಮಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ಕಾನೂನುಗಳು ದೇಶದ ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಚೌಕಟ್ಟಿನ ಒಳಗಿರಬೇಕು. ದೇಶದ ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ಕಾನೂನು ಮತ್ತು ನಿಯಮಗಳಿಗೆ ಅಧೀನವಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಸಂವಿಧಾನದಲ್ಲಿನ ಕಾನೂನು ಮತ್ತು ನಿಯಮಗಳ ಚೌಕಟ್ಟಿನೊಳಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಸರ್ಕಾರಗಳು ಅಂತಿಮವಾಗಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಪಕ್ಷದ ಪ್ರಣಾಳಿಕೆಯ ಅಂಶಗಳನ್ನು ಅನುಷ್ಠಾನಕ್ಕೆ ತರಬೇಕು. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಅಥವಾ ಪಕ್ಷದ ಪ್ರಣಾಳಿಕೆಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಉತ್ತಮವಾದಂತಹ ಅಂಶಗಳನ್ನೇ ಒಳಗೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಆದರೆ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂತಹದ್ದು ಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕ ಅನುಷ್ಠಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ. ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಬಾವುಟ, ಒಂದು ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಗೀತೆ, ಒಂದು ಸಂವಿಧಾನ, ಕಾನೂನುಗಳು, ನಿಯಮಗಳನ್ನು ರಚಿಸಿಕೊಂಡರೇನೇ ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯವಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿನ ಶೋಷಣೆ, ಲಂಚಗೊಳ್ತನ, ಅವ್ಯವಹಾರಗಳು ನಿಲ್ಲಬೇಕು. ವಿದ್ಯೆಗೆ ಪುರಸ್ಕಾರ, ಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕತೆಗೆ ಮನ್ನಣೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಬೇಕು. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ತಿನ್ನಲು ಅನ್ನ, ಉಡಲು ಬಟ್ಟೆ, ವಾಸಲು ಮನೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಬೇಕು. ಆಗಲೇ ನಿಜವಾದಂತಹ ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ. ರಾಜಕಾರಣಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರೌರ್ಯ, ದರ್ಪ, ದಬ್ಬಾಳಿಕೆ ಇವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ಕಡಿಮೆಯಾಗಬೇಕು. ಸುಲಿಗೆ, ಸುಳ್ಳು, ಕಪಟ, ಮೋಸ, ವಂಚನೆ ಈ ಪ್ರವೃತ್ತಿಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಕಡಿಮೆಯಾಗಬೇಕು. ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಅನಾದಿ ಕಾಲದಿಂದಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಬಂದಿರುವ ಉತ್ತಮ ಮೌಲ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ರಕ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಶಾಂತಿ ಮತ್ತು ಸೌಹಾರ್ದತೆಯನ್ನು ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಬರಬೇಕು. ಬಡವರನ್ನ ಬಡತನದ ರೇಖೆಗಿಂತ ಮೇಲೆತ್ತುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಉದ್ಯೋಗ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ರಕ್ಷಣೆ, ನ್ಯಾಯ ಸಿಗುವಂತೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಒಂದು ಉತ್ತಮವಾದಂತಹ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಇವೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಅದರ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಉತ್ತಮವಾದದ್ದು ಅನ್ನತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಭಾವನೆ ಜನರಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂಡುತ್ತದೆ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮತದಾನದ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಇರಲಿ, ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಇರಲಿ, ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕ ವಿತರಣಾ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಗಳಿರಲಿ, ತೆರಿಗೆ ಪದ್ಧತಿ ಇರಲಿ, ಇವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟರ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಸುಧಾರಣೆ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಆಗಿದ್ದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಇನ್ನೂ ಸುಧಾರಣೆ ಆಗಬೇಕಾಗಿರತಕ್ಕಂತಹದ್ದು ಬಹಳಷ್ಟಿದೆ. ಕಾರಣ ಸರ್ಕಾರದ ಹಣ, ಅದು ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕರ ಹಣ, ತೆರಿಗೆದಾರರ ಹಣ, ಇದು ಯಾರೊಬ್ಬರ ಹಣವೂ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ದುಂದು ವೆಚ್ಚಕ್ಕೆ ಕಡಿವಾಣ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು. ನಿಷ್ಪ್ರಯೋಜಕ ಚಟುವಟಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನು ಸ್ಥಗಿತಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ಸರಿದೂಗಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲರ ಹಿತವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಕಾಪಾಡಬೇಕು. ಪ್ರಣಾಳಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿನ ಭರವಸೆಗಳನ್ನು ಪೂರೈಸಬೇಕು. ಅಂಡ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಾಧಿಸಬೇಕಾದರೆ ಪಾರದರ್ಶಕತೆಯ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇದೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯಗಳನ್ನು, ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ತಾವು ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ನಿಯಮವನ್ನು, ಕಾನೂನನ್ನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದರೆ ಪಡೆಯಬೇಕು. ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ರಾಜಕಾರಣಿಗಳು ತಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವಂತ ಹಿತಾಸಕ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನು ಮರೆತು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ನಿಷ್ಕಲಂಕ ಮತ್ತು ನಿಷ್ಕಲ್ಮಶವಾದಂತಹ ಆಡಳಿತವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಬೇಕು. ನಿಸ್ವಾರ್ಥವಾದಂತಹ ನಿರ್ಧಾರಗಳನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳಬೇಕು. ತ್ವರಿತವಾದಂತಹ ನಿರ್ಧಾರಗಳನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳಬೇಕು. ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯತೆ, ಭಾರತೀಯತೆಗೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಒತ್ತನ್ನು ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಆಗ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ನಿಜವಾಗಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಉತ್ತಮವಾದಂತಹ ಆಡಳಿತವನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಂತಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಮಿತ್ರರೇ, ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. So thank you very much, friends, and thank you very much for providing an opportunity for me to spend some valuable time with you. Thank you very much, and all the best to you, friends.